Hi, I'm Dr. Morgan. I'm a family nurse practitioner. Welcome to Health Talk. I am here today with Dr. Darby Davis and Jeffrey Morgan. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I see patients both in office and virtually. And my virtual patients can reach me at push out at C Morgan, which is my invite code. And my office number is not 281-832-8490. That is at Abigail Healthcare Diabetes Clinic. Dr. Darby will tell a little bit about herself with a short introduction. She's a university professor, she's a health coach, and she's a healer. And Jeffrey is a military personnel, and he will be sharing his views today during our discussion on intimate partner violence. Dr. Darby and I did a session on how to let go from divorce and breakup separation. Out of that discussion came some unanswered questions or some areas that we did not address, and most of it were addressed from a female point of view. So we invite Jeffrey to share his perspective as a male on this topic. One of the concerns that I had, a matter of fact, both myself and Dr. Darby had, in speaking about women getting out of abusive relationship, we spoke about women finding some resources to put in place and having a safe exit out of the relationship. But in that circumstances, the woman might still work at the same workplace, and the spouse can still go there, have access to her, and still hurt her. Today, we are discussing, not covering all areas of how a man can have access to the woman after she has left. How do we educate men to deal with separation so that they don't venture down the route of hurting the female spouse? Dr. Darby, I'm going to ask you to say a few words about yourself, and we start.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan, for inviting me again. I truly enjoy being on your podcast. Like Dr. Morgan said, I am a nurse educator, a life coach, healer, mentor, and I wear many hats. I do have my own business, Zaharia Healing Body, Mind, and Soul. And if you need any type of spiritual counseling, mentoring, just someone to bounce ideas off, please feel free to reach out to me. You can call me. My phone number is 954-618-8203, or you can visit my website at www.zaharia.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Morgan, do you want to say something in introducing yourself?
Well, I'm Jeffrey Morgan. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Army. I am also a welder, fabricator. I'm a master fitness trainer, personal trainer, strength coach, nutrition coach as well.
Thank you. Okay, so Jeffrey, today we are talking about intimate partner violence, and most of the time this is violence against female. We consider ourselves the weaker sex, and sometimes when we're in a relationship that's not working and we want to leave, we come against opposition from the male partner, and sometimes it ends deadly. And I think that as a healthcare professional, I can use my platform to shed some light on this issue, to educate men how to deal with separation instead of going to a physical violence. My question to you: what are some strategies that men can adopt to cope with the pain from separation or divorce that would prevent physical violence against women?
Well, I like to approach things from a spiritual perspective. I mean, I don't think there's any other way, of course. But first, we need to understand, we need to accept ourselves first and foremost. There are several things that leads up to the whole violence, but I'm going to try and jump some of the steps. Oftentimes we get into relationship, we're not ready. We're not healed from previous relationship. We jump into one with the same mess that we're in, that we have been in, and jump to think that would fix the problem or fix our situation, and we carry that in. But our relationship is just, we have created memories, right? You and a partner, whether your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, we have created memories. So what happened, we reached a point now where if both decide to part ways or break up or separate, whatever you want to call it, that memory don't just leave like that. The body remember, but your mind, you can change your mind about anything in the snap of a finger or the switch of a light or whatever, but your body still remember. Our senses, because we acquire these memories through our senses, right? Seeing, feeling, or whatever, but especially seeing and feeling when it comes to relationship. So when a person or when a male in the most, because most time it's male or the aggressor, a male sometimes, it's not that he want to hurt the person, but that part of him is leaving, is divorcing or is separating that section. So you want to destroy it. You don't want another person to have it. It's not really the person you want to hurt. And he can't deal with that. So the first thing I would say, self-acceptance. Accept yourself. The feeling you're gonna have, even if you're psychologically prepared or emotionally prepared or whatever, you're still gonna feel some type of way. You're gonna have some form of feeling, something gonna trigger that sensation within the body, because the body is not gonna forget that memory. Just like how your mind can say, okay, I no longer want to be with you. You know, understand what I'm saying? So you're gonna be wanting, that's still gonna be there. So even though you are prepared mentally, it's not gonna go. So you have to find a way how, no, to accept yourself and say, look, it's a part of life for me to feel like this. Don't start to think about what people are gonna say or think you're weak because your girl leave you or your wife leave you or whatever because you decide to separate. Because most time we form these unrealistic ideas in our head, you know, of what people are gonna say or what people are gonna think. And it's really, in fact, it's we created these things. You know what I mean? And so because of that, we act, and most time in a violent manner. But accept yourself, love yourself, appreciate yourself, and you will be able to handle such situation better. Yes, you're gonna have moments when you're gonna reflect, and it's a part of the memory that you both of you have created. You're gonna reflect on those things, but you have to deal with it. Hurting the person will not allow you to get over it. You're just gonna live with regret, and that's gonna be more painful. So I think self-acceptance. But you know, leading up to that, if we really should go through the proper channel of forming a relationship, it would not have to come, it would not come to that. It would never, I don't think it would ever reach to the point where one want to hurt other, because love, when you decide to get involved with somebody or find a partner, it's because you think that you need somebody to go through life with. You need a companion, right? And it's love, and love is something that you nurture. So even though you don't think that both of you personality no longer mesh and you want to separate, the love should still be there. Not in terms of the intimacy, but it's not in the form that you want to hurt the person, you want to get rid of the person. Even though in marriage they said what, until death do us part. That doesn't give you the right to take the life. That's the only way you can part, you know? But I think, back to your question, self-acceptance. Accept life as it is. Build from that from within, not on the exterior part, because everything you see, because everything that bring it together was your senses, your five senses bring it together, right? Because remember, you see somebody, you see that person is the most beautiful person or whatever, they look attractive. Then you get the touch, so you enjoy that, so you're feeling that feeling. So you created, both of you create memory. And that is something, sometimes it lasts forever, right? Even though you change your mind about something, but that memory is still there. Think about somebody who lost a loved one. Why do you think they take time to get over that or to put it behind them? Is the memory. It's the same thing with breaking up, divorce, or whatever you want to call it.
So Jeffrey, so what you're saying is that these men should accept the current situation.
Yes.
Accept themselves, love themselves, and understand that they are whole. Even though this person is no longer a part of you physically for you to have a relationship and intimacy with them, look at the memories that you created, cherish those memories. If children were a part of it, just look and say that this person have given me beautiful children. We did these things together. Now it is time that this person want to move on to share their life with somebody else. And that person has that right as a human being to decide that. But in the time when it's happening, it's very, very painful to let go because
Yeah.
you've created all of that memories together. But healing, one of the strategies that I think about is speak to someone, not your friends on the when you go to the bar, because they're gonna tell you all kind of crazy stuff. Seek professional help. Dr. Darby is somebody that they could talk to, how to deal with these emotions when these emotions come. If you love somebody, you can't hurt them like that. And when you look at married couple and one is pulling the trigger on the other one, how could you love somebody and turn around and do that, leaving children without parents? So men need to find a way how to cope with separation and loss. I was listening to Dr. Bernard Beckwith, and he was doing an interview, and the person asked him, like, how do you feel about giving relationship advice when you have two failed marriages? And he said, I did not have two failed marriages. I had two beautiful marriages. Both of them run their courses, and it was time for us to separate because we outgrew each other. They both wanted to do different things, and they wanted to go. I still maintain a beautiful relationship with them. I got beautiful children from both relationships. I've done a lot of music with the other, with one of the wife. Those musics are still playing on the radio or, whatever media device. And I still go to their houses, meet with them and their spouses. We have dinner. So learning to love somebody at that depth where you let them go and still have a good relationship with them. And I find that when you're going through separation and divorce, it's very difficult. There's a lot of bitterness, anger. But once it is resolved, you find that you have a better relationship with that person 5 years later, 2 years later, than when you were going through that divorce. But eventually you found yourself and you're able to form new relationship with other people. Hopefully you learn from any mistake that you have made in the past. And always remember that people are not generally bad people. Sometimes you're not good for each other. I'm going to bring in Dr. Darby to see what Dr. Darby has to say about this. Dr. Darby?
Yes, I'm here. And as I listened to Jeffery as he spoke about the memories and, and the men building their self-esteem, their self-worth, I think about relationships. And I think, I've read Ayanna Van Zandt book, which she talks about relationship and people come into your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. So when we think about divorce and ending of relationship, these are sometimes seasonal relationship that the goal of the relationship has been met. It doesn't mean that person is a bad person. It just means that the goal has been met and it's now time to move on. It is a seasonal relationship. If we have children, we will be in a lifetime connection with each other. But when the season comes, like Jeffery said, you have to be able to, take those memories, cherish those memories, take some time to work on yourself, to heal, and then so that you can be in a space to let go of the ending of a relationship, healing yourself so that you can be whole and complete to attract the new energy, the new relationships into your life. Broken people break people. Heal the people, heal people. Not until you're completely healed as a man or a woman will you be able to enter another relationship where you're able to give and receive love. So it's very important, like Jeffery said, you have to work on yourself. I truly agree with him.
Jeffery, do you have anything additional to say?
Yes, you mentioned that whenever you going through stuff, you should not really talk to your friends, but it all depends. I'm going to give you a personal example. When I was in college, I broke up with a young lady that I was involved with, and it ripped me apart. I was like torn up, could not eat, could not sleep well, and whatever. And my best friend at the time, I told him, but without telling him the gravity of the situation. And he was able to guide me to get proper treatment for that. So sometimes you can tell a friend without telling them. But that time I was not as mature as I am now. However, I was just going through stuff and he sent me to where I was supposed to go to get proper help. And I was able to go through that and recover from it. So sometimes you can tell your friend, but not to get advice. Sorry, to get advice, but not the type of advice for healing, because they will not know. And it also depends on the type of friends you have too. But then I had older friends. People were much older than I am in a way. So they were more likely to point me in the right direction. So it depends. And it depends on how much you disclose as well.
Okay. Okay. So that's great. One of the things that I noticed with Jamaican men, I'm going to refer to Jamaican men because I'm Jamaican. Whenever a woman decides to leave, and it's not only Jamaican men and women, in a relationship, they're both benefiting from each other. And as soon as one decides that they're going to leave, after all let me do for him, and the man will say, after all that I did for her. So people are looking at longevity of the relationship based on how much they invested in the relationship. And I think that's one of the painful reasons why people can't let go, especially male. They might pick up this young girl, help to send her to school, educate her, know that she has become a professional. She wants to leave. And it's not that she wants to leave because she has now achieved a higher education. She outgrew him because while she was educating herself, he remained the same. So now she cannot even bring him into a conversation about certain things because he has not been reading anything. He has not expanded his awareness. He has not grown professionally, grown as a person or individual. When a woman or anybody goes through a training institution, they're not going to come out the same. You're going to come out with a broader perspective. You're going to be a whole different person. And the person who you're dating is not growing with you, there's going to be a separation. It's like you're on two different wavelengths. So most of the time, these ladies decide to leave, and the man, after all that I did for you, and they feel hurt, and it's almost look as if that person used the men to get where they're going. So some of these things happen, and as young females, it is important for females to speak to their spouse, like, okay, I'm going back to school. What are you doing with your life? I'm reading this book. Do you want to read this book with me? Have regular discussions so that you grow together. Because once one outgrow the other one, the relationship is never, ever gonna work.
And in addition, if I may, Dr. Darby said, some things are for a season, right? People should stop keeping record. Whenever you're in a relationship with somebody, I don't think you should keep record of what you do, because you both benefit from it at the time. Leave the past where it is. Live in the present. If it's time to part company. Don't even mention that. That's gone. You both enjoyed it. So even if you pay for somebody to go to school, you enjoy their companionship. So don't even mention it. It's not even an investment, but you both enjoy that ride, or what do you want to call it at that time. But in most cases, you mentioned Jamaican. I grew up in the culture. I've been around a lot of men. Is the ego. And it's when I get older, I didn't realize until I was about 30 something, I realized most of the stuff is just ego business, all about the ego. So they do things, it's not that you're macho or anything, but the ego overrides intellect. So that's why we have so much power. We cannot function. We were not able to function the way we were supposed to function as men. Because the fact that you're born and you make the transition to a man, or you get older, because the whole rite of passage thing that they used to have back in the days, well, that's a different story. Yeah, is out. And I think it's very important. Psychologist Carl Jung talked about it, or Carl Jung spoke about it. And I'm in total agreement with him. You don't, because you get big now and you have a penis, mean that you're a man. There are certain things that it takes, right? There are certain things it takes. You have to go through certain hardship to acquire that name, man. And the ego, you have to kill the ego from early before you make that transition, because that's what ruining a lot of stuff. Me, this, I, this. Those, once in a relationship, those things are out.
Okay.
Out of it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that explanation. Dr. Darby, we're bringing you in. If you have any rebuttal here, or if you have a question for Jeffery.
Well, I do have a question for Jeffery, because the last time we did speak, and I think we really gave the woman's perspective, being in an abusive or toxic relationship with their partner, assumingly a man, and having to leave the relationship, and the difficulty that occur when they have children. Now, on the flip side of it, Jeffery, I want you to share with us, have you experienced, or have you have any friends that have experienced this side where they are the abused ones? We think about men being abused and we think, okay, again, this macho ego man, and being in a relationship where he is now the victim. So I want you to speak on that now, where the man is the victim. Have you experienced or have heard, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes. There are several cases or instances where I have male that have been demasculated and been abused, but because they bear the title man or men, it's not reported. Because once again, they formulate these things in their head, how they will be seen and how people treat them. Oh, you're weak. So they bear it. Some of the things, men, we tend to suppress things and we don't really talk about things. A woman will be more vocal, but a man will more suppress it, because once again, we already create an image how we want to be seen. We want to be seen as this. We don't want to be seen as that, But yes, there are several instances, especially in my organization, where guys, and I don't know if it's because of the consequence, if they react to certain things, why they suppress these or why they succumb to these situations or what. I'm not saying they should retaliate in a violent manner. Because there are several professional organizations within the organization that can assist them in getting through things like this. And to be honest with you, I probably not be right to say this, but I don't think some of them are ready to acquire a part to marriage. Yet they look like they have milk on their mouth still. So they don't understand, but it's how they were socialized, why they behave like this. I'm talking about the female now, how they were socialized. Because there are instances when I hear, and I heard this with my own ears, don't let the man take control of you, don't let the man do this. I've heard that, but not in a situation where I could voice my opinion or anything, but I've heard it. So I think situations like those, or instances like those, cause people to succumb to these type. I believe that they don't believe a relationship is a partner where not one to be dominating the other. They don't think like that. Where I'm a firm believer that the man or the men should be the one leading and the woman or the women manage. That's how I believe. But in these cases, these demasculated men are not allowed to lead. They have been bossed, they have been dominated, right? They have been abused emotionally and otherwise. I'm not sure about the physical part. I've heard threats, but I'm not sure if it was carried out.
So Jeffery, can you give us an example of one situation where maybe an associate have been maybe emotionally abused? Just give us some details. You don't have to call any names.
I've seen guys who are scared to go home because of what his partner. He said we had to be at work late. His partner threatened that if he don't home at a certain time, what's gonna happen. And obviously his action tells that she has been abusing him physically. So he decided not to go home. We had to put up a few. We have had soldiers, male soldiers who can't even spend their own money. They can't. They have no control over it. They can't do anything. They only earn it, but they can't do nothing. They can't, when it comes to that part of it, they can't do anything. And they're being treated like, I don't even want to say a child, like a slave. I'd rather probably like a slave.
So are you saying that they can't spend their money, like they can't just go to a restaurant? You guys can't go hang out and buy some food?
No, because they check receipt and check where they are. They see this is going to cause problem. Probably somebody going to put in the corner for timeout or something. But yes, these are instances.
Dr. Darby?
Well, as I'm sitting here listening to Jeffery, it's quite obvious that there's various types of abuse. And when it comes to the men being the abused one, there's financial abuse and there's that emotional abuse tied to it.
Yes.
So in thinking about that, we have to encourage our men then to also try to move beyond the ego, and find someone to talk to share their story with in a safe, non-judgmental setting where they can hear their voice and perhaps help them navigate through this difficult situation, because now them have one woman that's running them and they can't make no decision. The woman that control the money. So now this woman is financially abusing this man. So to come to some kind of resolution to see, is this relationship a good fit for me? Is this relationship something that is going to bring me peace and joy? Where do I see myself in this relationship within the next 5 years or so? And what is it that I desire? Those are questions to really look at. What is it that I desire? And if my desire is to leave this relationship, how can I leave in a peaceful manner?
So Dr. Darby, the men now need to put aside some getaway money.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, Dr. Morgan. Now the man has to come up with his plan. Remember, we're just energy. They have more, they're masculine energy. Now the man has to come up with a plan of how he is going to exit this financially and emotionally abusive relationship. Because if the woman find out that he's trying to leave, she will hurt him in some form or fashion.
And the form or fashion that women tend to hurt men is by calling rape. Yes, especially in that organization where Jeffery works. It is really, really sad.
It's these things, in my mind, I don't think these things happen overnight. There were indicators during courtship or whatever. But they ignore these things. They thought it would have changed. I don't think anybody just get up and be something else. It's a process. And if you see, but many times men in particular, us men, we know we are a physical being and we use the physical and we use it and overshadow everything else in most cases. So as I usually say, I probably shouldn't whatever you get what you deserve because you see it, but you ignore it. But the truth and in fact is we should more pay attention to the personality rather than just the physical beauty. Don't be blinded by it.
But sometimes, Jeffery, when you say that they get what they deserve, sometimes the men have an emotional attachment to the female, but the female does have that little bad behavior that is open to change. And it's not changing. And because she knows that the man is vulnerable to her, she's just abusing him in that way. So that and it goes both ways.
I just want to say, Dr. Morgan, because we know that men are being abused, if you are a man, a manly man, or just a man in an abusive relationship, and you feel like your life is being threatened by your partner, you feel like you're not safe, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Yes.
The number is 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233 if you sense that you are in immediate danger.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now. Jeffery, do you have any final words to say?
Well, I just think we should have, as parents, we should culture our children not to be when they prepare them for when they go to in a relationship, not to be domineering, be as partner, right? Not to be one in charge of the other, but be as partner. Whatever you do it equally, because men, we need women and women need men. And there's no one side and there's no compromising to that. I think we should work as a unit, as the universe put us to do so.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna leave that right there.
Okay, great. Dr. Darby, do you have any closing statement?
Well, in closing, I'd like to say that, you know what, we're all human beings. We all have had traumatic experience in our life, some form or whatever. When we think about entering a relationship, Let's take some time to work on ourselves. We cannot go into a relationship, if we're broken, if we have unresolved issues. So let's practice that self-love. Let's fix whatever is wrong with us. And then when we cannot go into a relationship hoping to find someone to fix us. So let's fix whatever is broken within us. And when we are healed and complete, I believe that our partner will be vibrating on the same frequency as we are vibrating. So when we raise our frequency by healing ourselves, then our ideal partner who in the universe is also healing themselves, we will vibrate to others, and healed people will attract healed people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both Dr. Darby and Jeffrey coming on today to share their thoughts. And intimate partner violence is a very, very sensitive issue. As nurses, we're trained to identify these in the emergency room, trained to identify these on the hospital floors, and even in private practice. And the resources that they need. Dr. Darby is a healer. She's a life coach. Any men out there who are watching this, who are victims of intimate partner, any women who are also victim, please reach out to her and to talk to her about how to build your self-esteem. You might be having some rage, this person is doing these things to me, and you just want to apply some physical abuse to this person. Learn to walk away and learn to have your life, because when you hurt somebody, you're going to end up in prison. So you're going to lose your freedom. So learn to walk away, learn to understand that you came into this world by yourself, you're whole, and you are loved, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. One person is no longer in your life. There are millions of other people in this world who you can form relationship with. Just embrace the relationship that you had, embrace the memories that you made with that person, and move on. So this brings us to the end of intimate partner violence, learning how to let go. We're here from a male's perspective, and I'll be bringing on another male on Monday to discuss further on this topic. Thank you so much for joining today. This is Health Talk with Dr. Morgan. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.